Good day, friends. In this video, I'll explain how after Operation Sindoor, the Pakistan military is leading the Indian military and it is better placed to fight the next war. And reason is that not only has Pakistan military recognized the operational level of war, it is also building up capabilities and organizations, structures to operationalize this level of war. And I've explained so many times, especially in my last video on 5th of November, that operational level of war, which is the intermediate level of war between tactics, the tactical level of war, where battles happen at the front line, and the strategic level of war, which is the highest level of war, where the political and the military leadership interact with one another. At the intermediate or the operational level of war, the wars are won or they are lost. It's so important. And now they are operationalizing this. And the proof of that is they have already announced that the Pakistan Army will have a rocket force command, which will obviously work with the Pakistan Air Force at this operational level of war. How have they come to this situation? Let us understand this step by step. It all started with Balakot. In 2019, when the Indians did the Balakot airstrike, we saw that the Pakistan Air Force gave a good account of its electronic warfare capabilities. Next, we got to know that in August 2021, under the Pakistan Air Force, an organization was created with help from the PLA called the CENT-AIC, which is the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Computing. Now, the very fact it was under the Pakistan Air Force was proof that in the next war, Pakistan Air Force and not the Pakistan Army will be the lead service. And then we got to know that at the CENT-AIC, the first project at hand will be cognitive electronic warfare, which is artificial intelligence and electronic warfare, taking electronic warfare to a higher level, to an advanced level. Sorry. Next, in January 2022, Pakistan released its national security policy. On that occasion, the Army Chief General Bajwa said that all the three services of the Pakistan military will have cyber capabilities and organizations for that. It stands to reason if this is what happened in 2022, then another project at CENT-AIC would be artificial intelligence and cyber, taking it to an advanced level. And this becomes a deadly combination, AI and electronic warfare. Because anybody who understands modern warfare knows the importance of CEMA. CEMA is CEMA, which is cyber and electromagnetic activities. Both these virtual domain capabilities, they work together. As far as cyber is concerned, it attacks the data, and electronic warfare, it attacks the electromagnetic waves that carry the data. So these two capabilities are very important. And then we saw the evidence of how good the Pakistan military had become in CEMA, during Operation Sindoor. First, after the first air-to-air engagement, the Pakistan Air Force, it gave a briefing to the international media where a senior officer explained on a digital map as to how even before the launch of Operation Sindoor, the Pakistan Air Force had electronic identification of the Indian Air Force fighters. Big thing. This is about electronic intelligence. And we know that the core competency of electronic warfare is electronic intelligence. Then, as far as part of the Pakistan Air Force digital ecosystem, which was explained and which they called the multi-domain operation, there the electronic warfare played a very important role. So much for electronic warfare, the advanced electronic warfare. As far as cyber is concerned, we saw the cyber capabilities of Pakistan. During this operation, when they did the cyber attacks in Jammu and Kashmir, and the computers in Jammu and Kashmir government and elsewhere, they were shut down for weeks together. So the point I'm making is that they've already reached a certain level of CEMA that works at the operational level. And next, what they would be looking at is jointness. Now, jointness between the army and the air force. Now, jointness is not about theaterization at all. Jointness is about real time communications, which are CEMA hardened. CEMA, that is what they'll be doing. They will not be doing theaterization. Next, they need the capabilities now. And that is where the Chinese will help Pakistan, because China is committed publicly to support Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So rest be assured that the Pakistan Air Force will get the fifth generation J-35 aircraft, and they will also get additional J-10 aircraft. In my assessment, they'll get the PL-17 missile in addition to the PL-15, which they showcased in Operation Sindoor. Then they will get the hypersonic cruise missiles, which will be part of the Rocket Force Command. And I also have no doubts that they will get the SH-15, which is the wheeled self-propelled howitzer of China, which has a 52 caliber and the range of 53 kilometers. So the point that I am making is that what they will be looking at the operational level of war is integrated fire strikes, where that will be done by their aircraft, Pakistan Air Force. Pakistan Air Force will also be looking at the air defense systems, where the shortcoming or the gaps, for example, the gaps against taking on the S-400, they will be filled by China by providing them HQ-19 system, which can take on the S-400 with the Indian side. Then there will be the Rocket Force Command under the army, and there will be the long range artillery. And the objective of this integrated fire strikes will be two. One is to get the air supremacy as early as possible so that the ground operations can move then, the army operations. And the second will be that I have explained in my video also last time, when you hit at the operational level of war, you unsettle or unravel the enemy's defenses. These will be the objective. Now let's look what is happening on the Indian side. Now, on 4th of November, the Chief of Defense Staff General Anil Chauhan gave a longish interaction. He was talking to a person there at the Bharat Shakti YouTube channel, where he answered a lot of questions. I've just picked up a few of what he said. Now, when he was asked, what are the things or what all capabilities you understand after Operation Sindoor we need? He said we need better air defense, better electronic warfare, and then the Indian side needs ISR and kinetic capabilities for across the entire Pakistan, whole of Pakistan. I want to make 2 points here. First is that I was completely shocked, I was aghast. It is one thing for the enemy to guess what are your shortcomings, your operational gaps. It is quite another for the senior most officer of the Indian military to actually say publicly what are our shortcomings and what we need to fill. In my assessment, this is nothing short than breach of national security. When the CDS says that we need air defense, electronic warfare, knowing fully well that Operation Sindoor has not ended, it is on pause. Next, he spoke about need for ISR and kinetic capabilities for whole of Pakistan. In other words, what he was saying is, and this is what the enemy would have understood, that the Indian military is not ready for a full-scale war, period. Next, he was asked a question as to how he visualizes the future war obviously between India and Pakistan. And his reply was that earlier the wars, they were more about geography. There was technology, but it was essentially about geography that has been replaced. Now it is more about technology. Now, what he was saying and what he did not say was this, that when you talk of geography, the earlier wars, that means the Indian army was to be in the lead, the land forces should be in the lead. But when you talk of technology as being more now in the future war, then you're talking of air power. You're not talking of the Indian army, and this is precisely the reason right from 2019, the Pakistan army has given the lead to the Pakistan Air Force in the next war with India, a full-scale war. So this is what he was saying. So he understands that the primacy should go to the Indian Air Force, but the Indian Army, including the CDS and the Army Chief, repeatedly insist that the Indian Army will lead the war. So the point is, why should they lead the war? Because obviously they are doing this counter-terror operation. And the mandate of the Prime Minister is, the political directive is counter-terror operations, which is what they did in all the operations against Pakistan that we have seen. So the point I am making is that this will not help the next time, for the simple reason that the other side is prepared for or is preparing for a full-scale war. So the primacy should not be with the army. Now, another thing that he said, and this was a very important thing, on theaterization, he said, essentially, let me summarize and then I'll explain. What he said was that the old model has failed and now we are starting afresh. This is what he said, but he put it like this. He said that my mandate as the Chief of Defense Staff is theaterization. So his predecessor also, General Bipin Rawat, the CDS office was created. Now we know for the primary job was theaterization. And it was said at that time that it will be done in 3 years. That means Bipin Rawat became the CDS in January 2020. So December 2023, it was to be finished. The theater commands would have been created. It didn't happen. That mandate now has come to General Anil Chauhan. Now, what he is saying is, after 4.5 years of this whole thing starting, that there were lessons which were learned. We need to incorporate that. And the lesson that he is talking of are in operations. And the central thing of theaterization is operations. And he explained it also by saying that before Operation Sindoor, our model was different. In that model, it was that the service chiefs will not have an operational role. Their role will be force generation, which is raise, train, and sustain the troops. That will be the role of the chiefs. Because the operational role will be of the theater commanders, who will have under their command in the theater units from the Army, Air Force, and the Navy. But now he says, we have learned lessons because all the 3 service chiefs, they worked together. I was also with them in Sindoor. And mind you, Sindoor was not really a war. It was basically a coordinated act which was done, and that was the end of it. It was over in 4 days. But that besides, he said that now we have understood that some sort of a role, operational role, will have to be given to the service chiefs. Well, there you are. The service chiefs need the role. You need to build the capabilities. After that, only talk of the theaterization and the way it looks, and it will be entirely different at a later stage. Next, he spoke about that I have an operational role because space, cyber, and cognitive domains are under me. Well, actually, they shouldn't be under you. To begin with, there is no mention of electronic warfare. I have just explained earlier the importance of CEMA and how these two virtual capabilities have to work together. And then he says, and he also considered that electronic warfare, we are weak and we need to improve this. So in my assessment, look at CEMA, and this should have a central role. It cannot be with the CDS. It should have an operational role with the operational commander. But I won't go beyond that. I'm sure there are people within the military who will think now on these lines. The last thing, a very important thing he said is that we held recently the Combined Commanders Conference, which for the first time was held in the eastern part of India. And he said we held it there because we wanted to send a message. Message to whom? Are you wanting to send a message to the PLA? Well, what I would like to inform the CDS is that PLA is at the cutting edge of the operational level of war. And what that cutting edge is, I will explain in my next video. But for the time being, what I want to say is, forget about the PLA, focus on Pakistan. and focus on building up operational level of war capabilities. This is important. Theaterization can wait. Thank you so much.